Woof. Hello, and welcome to A Story by Diogenes. It's a great modern American cynic here, and dog. This is an original work of mine. It's a parable. It's got some philosophical nuggets within it. I'm going to try to get through it without making too many mistakes. If you don't want to look at my face, just set it down, pop some earbuds in, and listen to the story by the old philosopher. Shangri'la. There were not always dragons in the valley. Bang told us this each winter as we huddled near the cooking fire. The light from the coals staining his face red and shadow. His voice carried the weight of someone who had walked through more years than there were stones in the room. There was a time, he'd begin, when our sky was ours. He said it softly, as though speaking it too loud might call the dragons back. Few of us are left who even heard those stories, let alone believed them. Kendi is one of the last. Born before the first became many, his mind still clear enough to remember the faces of those who vanished. Pepang would lean close then, his eyes catching the firelight. Our valley was one of the last untouched places. Eden, he called it. A ring of mountains stood guard over our home, each spine lit with waterfalls by day, lanterns by night. When mist pooled in the basin and the peaks looked like the backs of sleeping giants, it was from those shapes, he said, that the name Shangri-La was born. It was peaceful until the earth shook. It began with a rumble, like a stone rolling endlessly inside a hollow mountain. Then fire poured from the cliffs, as if stone giants had split their backs and bled flame. The rivers swelled black with soot and ash. The old ones whispered the mountains were waking, though they did not say from what dream. At first the changes were small. Shepherds would return with lighter flocks, swearing only one or two had wandered off. Wolves were blamed. Then the big cats, but even the predators of our valley took only what they needed. These vanishings were different. Reptiles, Pepang told us, were patient killers. They waited a month or more for the next hunt. This was hunger without pause. 18 months after the first shaking, the dragon was seen. Aldrin was the one who saw it. He was a smith, dark-skinned, strong-backed, quiet as the anvil he struck each day. The day he saw the beast, he was not himself. Pale, whitewashed wall. His skin wet with fever. For a week he spoke in tongues. His words were like wind through broken reeds. When he finally spoke plain again, his voice was not the voice we knew. The elders thought the heat from the forge had cracked his mind. Smoke, soot, fever. They said it had made him see ghosts. The Aldrin told of a dark thing with eyes like molten copper, gliding on the wind, as though the air bent itself to carry it. His prize oxen, he said, were clutched in long, scaled talons, one in each. He had watched them vanish into the black horizon. His wife, Kirana, begged the council to believe him. Her tears shone in the firelight as she clutched his broad, calloused hands. But fear is a thing most councils will not name aloud. Instead, they call it madness. Ferg, our council leader, was a man who thought that by naming a thing wrong, you could make it harmless. They voted to shackle Aldrin until he was well enough to return. For a month, the village pretended nothing had changed. But in the silence, the dragons grew bold. Goats vanished, then children. Fires flared in the night on the mountain ridges, dancing shape of wings against the moon. Those who looked too long at the ridges began to speak strangely, just as Aldrin had. When Ferg's own daughter went missing, the quiet was broken. The council gathered at the edge of the village. They spoke not as leaders, but as frightened men. The question was no longer whether the dragons existed. It was what they wanted. It was Aldrin, released at last, who gave the answer none wanted to hear. They want what we guard, he said. The council laughed bitterly. We have no gold, no silver, no treasure. Aldrin shook his head. Not treasure, memory. The elders scoffed, but the old storytellers stirred uneasily. For in Shangri'la, stories were more than words. They were the weave that bound the valley. Every child knew the songs that told how the mountains rose, how the rivers learned their paths. These stories were kept as carefully as grain in winter. Aldrin claimed the dragons fed on them, not as we feed on meat or grain, but in a way more final way. A single breath from a dragon's maw could burn a tale from a man's mind, leaving only the hollow of what had been there. At first, no one believed, but then came the forgetting. The woman who remembered the path through the high pass forgot where it began. The man who kept the planting calendar could not recall when the rains would come. And one by one, the elders lost the names of their own dead. By the time the first snow came, the council could no longer meet, for no one could remember why they were there. Kendi and I left when the forgetting began to touch those of you that were young. We crossed the mountains in silence, carrying only one story, each in our hearts, fearing to speak it, lest it be stolen. Behind us, Shangri-La burned, not in fire, but in absence, as if an eraser had passed over it. Guard your memories well. Guard your stories better, for there are dragons in every valley. Though not all wear scales. Some fly on wings of fire, others come softly, asking only that you forget one thing. Just one, to make your life lighter. That is when the true madness begins. And that's the story of Shangri-La. Thank you if you've made it this far. Give me a like and a sub, maybe even a share if you'd like to share my original work here. Comment down below if you would like to muse and give your opinion on what this parable and philosophical tale means. I'm curious to see what the digital Agora has to say. Thank you for your time, and I wish you well. Woof. That's been a story with Diogenes.